I lost my rifle. My rifle.
Navy SEALs don't hand out praise lightly. Most war movies get laughed out of the room by actual operators. But there are 6 films that even the most battle-hardened frogmen admit got it right. Number 6, Lone Survivor.
Push right. Push right. Push right.
This one hits different because it actually happened. Marcus Luttrell lived through Operation Red Wings and then watched Peter Berg turn his story into a film that SEALs still talk about. The movie follows a 4-man SEAL team dropped into Afghanistan to hunt down a Taliban leader. Things go sideways fast when local goat herders stumble onto their position. And what follows is one of the most brutal firefights ever put on screen. What makes Lone Survivor stand out isn't just the action. It's the little details that real SEALs immediately recognize. The way the team communicates under fire, the hand signals, the constant equipment checks, even how they move through terrain. Peter Berg didn't just read the book and call it a day. He embedded himself with actual SEAL teams, studied their tactics, and made sure every piece of gear down to the smallest carabiner was exactly what these guys would actually carry on a mission like this. Mark Wahlberg trained directly with Marcus Luttrell for months before filming. Luttrell was on set constantly, not as some ceremonial consultant getting a paycheck, but as the guy making sure nobody screwed up his story. When the actors complained about the physical demands, Luttrell reminded them that he and his teammates did this while actually getting shot at. That kind of authenticity bleeds through every frame. The combat sequences are where this movie really earns its respect. That ridgefall scene, where the SEALs get thrown down rocky cliffs over and over, that's not Hollywood exaggeration. That actually happened. Berg filmed it practically with real stunt performers getting brutalized on camera, and you can feel every impact. Real SEALs have said, watching that sequence brings back the visceral memory of what combat actually feels like. The chaos, the confusion, the way your body just keeps moving even when your brain is screaming at you to stop. But what really gets SEALs nodding in approval is how the film handles the moral weight of their decisions. When those goat herders show up, the team faces an impossible choice. Let them go and risk compromising the mission, or eliminate the threat and live with that decision forever. The movie doesn't dress it up or make it easy. It shows exactly how agonizing that moment was, and SEALs respect that, because those are the kinds of decisions they train for but hope they never have to make. The firefight itself is relentless. None of that Hollywood nonsense where the good guys duck behind a rock and reload while having a casual conversation. This is sustained combat where ammunition runs out, weapons malfunction, and guys are fighting through injuries that would put normal people into shock. The sound design deserves special mention because actual SEALs have pointed out how accurate the weapon reports are, how the crack of rounds passing overhead sounds exactly right, how the chaos of battle comes through without turning into incomprehensible noise. Then there's the portrayal of the bond between these men. SEALs don't talk about brotherhood as some abstract concept. It's the guy next to you who you trust with your life, who knows your family, who you've bled with in training and combat. The movie captures that relationship without turning it into a sentimental mess. When these guys are dying for each other on screen, it's not some manufactured Hollywood moment. It's what SEALs do, and the authenticity of those relationships shows. Marcus Luttrell has been vocal about his satisfaction with how the film turned out. He's said that watching it brings him right back to that mountain, and for a guy who actually lived through that hell, that statement carries weight. Other SEALs who've deployed to Afghanistan have echoed similar sentiments, pointing out details that only someone who's been there would recognize. The way villages look, how the Taliban fighters move and communicate, even the terrain, and how it affects combat operations. The movie also doesn't shy away from showing the cost. This isn't a heroic war film where everyone comes home draped in glory. 3 SEALs died on that mountain. The rescue helicopter got shot down, killing everyone aboard. The film shows that brutal reality without exploiting it. And that respectful handling of real sacrifice is something the SEAL community appreciated. It's not gratuitous, it's honest. Number 5, Zero Dark 30.
Who's in the Saudi group? What's the target? Where was the last time you saw Bin Laden?
Catherine Bigelow took on one of the most classified operations in modern military history, and somehow managed to make a film that actual operators respect. Zero Dark 30 chronicles the decade-long hunt for Osama bin Laden, culminating in the raid on his compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan. And that final 30 minutes might be the most realistic depiction of a SEAL operation ever captured on film. The movie doesn't waste time with false heroics or manufactured drama. It's a procedural that shows the grinding intelligence work, the dead ends, the political pressure, and the slow, methodical process of tracking down the world's most wanted terrorist. But when it finally gets to the raid itself, everything changes. Bigelow reportedly had access to actual SEAL Team 6, members who walked her through exactly how the operation went down, and you can see that expertise in every frame. What immediately stands out to real SEALs is the pre-mission sequence, the briefing, the scale model of Fike compound, the way the team methodically walks through every possible scenario. This isn't some gung-ho pep talk before battle. It's professionals doing mission planning the way it's actually done, discussing contingencies, identifying potential problems, making sure everyone knows their specific role. Real operators have pointed out that this is exactly how these briefings happen, right down to the casual tone and dark humor that keeps everyone loose before a high-stakes mission. Then there's the gear, the night vision equipment, the weapons loadout, the communications setup. All of it matches what SEAL Team 6 would actually use on a mission like this. The movie doesn't glamorize the equipment or turn it into some tech showcase. It just shows these tools being used the way they're designed to be used. The night vision footage in particular has been praised for its accuracy, showing how SEALs actually see and operate in total darkness. The insertion sequence is where the film really starts to shine. The helicopter flight into Pakistan, the tension of penetrating hostile airspace, and then the crash of one of the choppers. That wasn't a dramatic invention, that actually happened. And the way the film portrays it, the immediate shift to contingency plans, the calm professionalism of the team adjusting to a major problem, that's exactly how SEALs are trained to respond. No panic, no hesitation, just immediately moving to Plan B. Once the team is on the ground and breaching the compound, the realism kicks into overdrive. The methodical room clearing, the communication between team members, the way they move through the compound neutralizing threats while trying to identify their primary target. There's no music, no slow motion, no dramatic pauses. It's just professionals doing their job with brutal efficiency. SEALs have specifically praised the breach sequences for showing proper tactical movement and communication protocols. The rules of engagement portrayed in the film also match reality. The team doesn't go in guns blazing, calling everything that moves. They're making split-second decisions about threats, trying to minimize civilian casualties while completing their mission. When they encounter women and children, you see the discipline and restraint that actual SEALs are trained to maintain even in the most intense situations. That level of control under pressure is what separates elite operators from everyone else. The actual KO shot that ends bin Laden is handled with stark simplicity. No dramatic buildup, no final words, just professionals completing their objective. Real SEALs have noted that this lack of Hollywood theatrics is exactly right. In real combat operations, these moments happen fast and without ceremony. The mission isn't about revenge or personal satisfaction. It's about completing the objective and getting everyone home safely. The communication between the team and command during the operation is another detail that rings true. The call signs, the brevity codes, the way information flows up and down the chain of command. Bigelow clearly had access to people who understood how these communications actually work, because every radio call feels authentic. There's no unnecessary chatter, no explaining things for the audience's benefit, just professional military communication. What also impressed real operators is how the film handles the aftermath. There's no triumphant celebration, no chest-thumping heroics. The SEALs complete their mission, secure the target, and extract. The satisfaction comes from a job well done, not from personal glory. This understated approach to one of the most significant military operations in recent history shows a level of respect for the profession that SEALs recognize and appreciate. The controversy around the film's portrayal of enhanced interrogation techniques is separate from the operational accuracy of the raid itself. But even that controversy speaks to how seriously the filmmakers took the source material. They weren't making a propaganda piece or a simple action movie. They were trying to show the complicated reality of modern warfare and intelligence operations. And that commitment to complexity rather than simplification is part of why the SEAL community respects the final product. Number 4. Black Hawk Down. Ridley Scott's brutal depiction of the Battle of Mogadishu stands as one of the most intense combat films ever made, and it's one of the few movies where actual special operations forces consistently say, "Yeah, that's pretty much how it goes." The film follows the disaster that unfolded in 1993, when what should have been a simple raid to capture Somali warlord lieutenants turned into a 15-hour urban firefight that left 18 Americans dead and 73 wounded. What makes Black Hawk Down so respected among SEALs and other special operators isn't just that it shows combat accurately, it's that it captures the feeling of a mission going completely sideways, and professionals having to adapt under the worst possible circumstances. The operation starts with confidence and precision. Everyone knows their role, the plan is solid, and the initial insertion goes smooth. Then the first helicopter goes down, and suddenly everything changes. That shift from controlled operation to absolute chaos is something every special operator trains for, but hopes never to experience. The technical accuracy of the film is remarkable. Scott worked extensively with the actual participants from the battle, including Delta Force operators and Rangers who were there. Mark Bowden's book provided the detailed foundation, but the real operators made sure the film got the details right. The weapons, the tactics, the radio communications, even the way soldiers moved through the streets of Mogadishu. Real SEALs point out that while they weren't the primary unit involved in this particular operation, the portrayal of special operations tradecraft is accurate across the board. The film doesn't pull punches when showing what modern combat actually looks like. The volume of fire, the confusion, the way even well-trained soldiers can get disoriented in an urban environment where every window and doorway represents a potential threat. There's a scene where one of the Rangers freezes up under fire, and rather than turning that into a major character moment, the film shows how his buddies immediately cover for him and keep moving. That's real. In actual combat, people have moments of hesitation or fear, and the team compensates. The portrayal of the Somali fighters also avoids the typical Hollywood trap of making the enemy either incompetent or cartoonishly evil. These guys are shown as determined, tactical, and willing to use the terrain and numbers to their advantage. They're not professional soldiers, but they're fighting on their home ground with nothing to lose, and that makes them incredibly dangerous. Real operators respect enemies who fight smart, and the film shows that respect. One of the most praised elements is how the movie handles the mounting casualties and equipment failures. Radios malfunction, helicopters crash, ammunition runs low, and the wounded start piling up. This isn't a clean operation where everything works perfectly. It's Murphy's Law in action, and the film shows how special operators respond to compounding problems. They adapt, they improvise, and they absolutely refuse to leave anyone behind. That last point is crucial. The entire disaster stems from the commitment to recover every fallen soldier, and the film shows both the nobility and the tactical nightmare of that commitment. The night scenes where the Rangers and Delta operators are holed up in buildings, surrounded by hostile forces, just trying to survive until rescue arrives. Those sequences have been singled out by real operators as particularly accurate. The exhaustion, the stress, the way guys are running on pure adrenaline in training because their bodies are completely spent. Combat isn't just about the firefights. It's about the sustained physical and mental strain, and Black Hawk Down doesn't look away from that reality. The final relief and convoy sequence is chaos on film. The mix of American forces, Malaysian, and Pakistani UN troops, all trying to fight their way to the trapped soldiers while navigating a hostile city. Real operators have noted how accurately the film portrays the fog of war, or even with modern communications and training, Keeping track of friendly forces and coordinating movements in the middle of a firefight is incredibly difficult. Nothing about that final push is clean or heroic looking. It's just desperate, violent, and necessary. What SEALs specifically appreciate about Black Hawk Down is that it doesn't try to manufacture meaning or justify the mission politically. It simply shows what happened when highly trained soldiers found themselves in an impossible situation and fought their way out. There's no flag waving, no speeches about freedom or democracy, just professionals doing their job under the worst possible circumstances. That honest portrayal of combat without the political or emotional manipulation is rare in war films. The respect this film has earned from the special operations community comes from its commitment to showing the reality without flinching. Scott didn't make this movie to glorify war or push a political agenda. He made it to honor the men who fought in Mogadishu by telling their story as accurately as possible. Real SEALs recognize that commitment, and it's why Black Hawk Down remains a required viewing for understanding modern special operations combat. Number 3. American Sniper. Clint Eastwood turned Chris Kyle's autobiography into a film that sparked endless debates about war, heroism, and the cost of service. But among actual SEALs, the discussion isn't about politics or morality. It's about whether the film accurately portrays the life of a SEAL sniper and the toll that life takes on the men who live it. And on that front, most SEALs agree Eastwood got a lot more right than wrong. Bradley Cooper didn't just show up and pretend to be a SEAL. He trained extensively with actual naval special warfare personnel, spent time with Chris Kyle before his death, and physically transformed himself to match Kyle's build. Real SEALs have pointed out that Cooper's weapon handling, his trigger discipline, and his entire demeanor with a rifle reflects legitimate training. You can't fake that kind of muscle memory, and Cooper put in the work to make it authentic. The film opens with one of Kyle's most agonizing moments, having to make a split-second decision about whether to shoot a woman and child approaching a Marine convoy with a grenade. That scene sets the tone for everything that follows because it shows the moral weight these snipers carry. Real SEAL snipers have talked about how accurate that portrayal is. Not just the technical aspects of taking the shot, but the psychological burden of making life and death decisions where hesitation can get your teammates killed and action might haunt you forever. What separates American Sniper from typical war movies is how much time it spends on the home front. The film doesn't just show Kyle's deployments. It shows what happens when he comes back, and that's where the real accuracy shines through for SEALs who've lived it. The disconnect between combat and civilian life. The way Kyle sits at home, but his mind is still in Iraq. The strain on his marriage as his wife tries to reach a man who's emotionally shut down. Real operators have said this is the part of the movie that hit hardest, because it's the part nobody outside the community really understands. The combat sequences themselves are meticulously researched. The urban warfare in Fallujah and Ramadi, the way sniper teams set up overwatch positions, the coordination between snipers and the ground forces they are protecting. Eastwood consulted with Kyle's former teammates and other SEAL snipers to get the tactics right. The way Cooper moves through buildings, sets up his hide, communicates with his spotter, all of that reflects actual SEAL sniper doctrine. There's no dramatic music swelling when he takes a shot. It's just professional work being done under incredible pressure. The rivalry with the enemy sniper Mustafa adds dramatic tension, though real SEALs have noted that Hollywood amplified this element beyond what actually happened. But the core truth remains accurate. There were skilled enemy snipers operating in Iraq, and American snipers absolutely tracked and hunted them. The cat-and-mouse game portrayed in the film, even if somewhat dramatized, reflects a real aspect of urban sniper warfare. These weren't random shooters. They were trained marksmen who posed a legitimate threat, and dealing with them required patience, skill, and sometimes taking enormous risks. What really resonates with the SEAL community is the film's portrayal of the brotherhood. The scenes where Kyle is with his team, the banter, the way they look out for each other, the unspoken communication between men who have been through hell together. That's not scripted Hollywood dialogue. That's how these guys actually interact. The humor might seem dark or inappropriate to outsiders, but it's exactly how warriors cope with the stress of combat. Real SEALs have said watching those team scenes felt like being back with their own platoons. The film also doesn't shy away from showing Kyle's struggles with PTSD, though it handles it more subtly than some viewers expected. He's not having dramatic flashbacks or violent outbursts. Instead, you see him sitting at a barbecue, surrounded by family, completely checked out mentally. You see him responding to sounds as if he's still in a combat zone. Real veterans have praised this understated approach, because that's what PTSD often looks like. It's not always explosive. Sometimes it's just a guy who can't be present in his own life anymore. The training sequences early in the film also earned approval from real SEALs. Bud's training is notoriously brutal, and while the film only shows glimpses, those glimpses are accurate. The cold, the exhaustion, the instructors breaking candidates down mentally and physically to see who has the inner strength to continue. Real SEALs have noted that Cooper captured the 1,000-yard stare of someone going through that hell, and the film respects the difficulty of earning the trident without turning it into a Rocky-style training montage. Kyle's relationship with Mark Lee, the first SEAL killed in Iraq, and the impact of that death on Kyle is handled with genuine emotion. The film shows how these losses accumulate, how each death takes something from the survivors, how Kyle kept going back partly out of duties, and partly because he felt like he was abandoning his brothers if he stayed home. Real SEALs have talked about this same pull, the guilt of being safe stateside, while your teammates are still in harm's way. That aspect of the warrior mentality is something civilians rarely understand, and the film captures it authentically. The movie's most controversial element was always going to be its portrayal of the Iraq War itself. But from a purely operational standpoint, SEALs have defended its accuracy. The way the teams operated in Iraqi cities, the rules of engagement, the coordination with conventional forces, the constant threat of IEDs and ambushes. These details ring true to people who were actually there. Whether the war itself was justified is a political question. Whether the film accurately shows how SEALs fought that war is a tactical question. And on that front, most operators give it high marks. The ending, showing Kyle's work with veterans and his tragic death, brings the story full circle. The film doesn't show the actual murder, instead cutting to his funeral and the massive public response. Real SEALs appreciated that choice, keeping the focus on Kyle's life and legacy rather than exploiting his death. The final scene of his funeral procession, with thousands of Americans lining the highway to pay respects, actually happened. It wasn't a Hollywood invention, and it showed the genuine impact Kyle had, both within the SEAL community and beyond it. American Sniper isn't perfect, and real SEALs will tell you where it takes dramatic liberties. But the core portrayal of what it means to be a SEAL sniper, the weight of that responsibility, the toll it takes on marriages and mental health, and the unbreakable bonds between teammates, those elements are authentic enough that the men who live that life recognize their own experiences on screen. Number 2. Act of Valor.
Whiplash! Whiplash! Secondary extracted!
This one's different from every other film on this list because it used actual active duty Navy SEALs as the lead actors, not consultants, not advisors standing off camera. Real operators pulled from SEAL teams to star in a major motion picture. That decision alone makes Act of Valor unique, and it's exactly why the SEAL community has such mixed but ultimately respectful feelings about it. The film started as a recruitment video for the Navy's Special Warfare Command. Directors Mike McCoy and Scott Waugh were brought in to make something that would show what SEALs actually do. And somewhere along the way, the project evolved into a feature film. The Pentagon approved it, Naval Special Warfare Command supported it, and real SEALs were assigned to be the stars. No actors pretending to be operators, just operators doing what they do. Except this time with cameras rolling. The result is a movie that feels completely different from typical Hollywood war films. The acting is stiff and wooden because these guys aren't actors, they're warriors. The dialogue sometimes sounds like it's being read off cue cards because that's exactly what's happening. But When the action starts, when bullets are flying and teams are executing real-world tactics, suddenly everything changes. Because what you're watching isn't choreographed Hollywood action. It's actual naval special warfare doctrine being demonstrated by the men who wrote the manual. The tactical sequences in Act of Valor are the most accurate portrayal of SEAL operations ever captured on film. And that's not hyperbole. Real SEALs have said, watching this movie is like watching a training exercise or an actual op, just with better camera angles. The way the teams communicate, the hand signals, the room clearing procedures, the coordination between elements. All of it is exactly how SEALs operate because the men on screen are doing what they've done hundreds of times in training and combat. The opening sequence where the team rescues a CIA operative from a jungle compound in Costa Rica sets the tone immediately. The infiltration by boat, the movement through the jungle, the synchronized breach and room clearing, it's all textbook SEAL tactics executed with precision. There's no Hollywood embellishment, no unnecessary dialogue or dramatic pauses, just professionals doing their job efficiently and moving to the next objective. Real operators have pointed out specific details in that sequence that you'd never see in a normal war movie because Hollywood doesn't know those details exist. The maritime operations are where the film really shines. SEALs are naval commandos, and their roots are in underwater operations and ship attacks. Act of Valor showcases these capabilities in ways other films never have. The shipboarding sequence, using rigid hull inflatable boats and fast rope insertions, that's genuine SEAL tradecraft. The combat dive sequences, operating in dark water with rebreathers and underwater navigation, that's the kind of mission profile SEALs train for, constantly but rarely gets shown on film because it's technically complex and visually challenging to shoot. The gear and weapons are all current issue naval special warfare equipment. The Mk-18 rifles, the MBI-TR radios, the plate carriers and helmet setups, everything matches what actual SEAL teams use in the field. This isn't some prop master's interpretation of military gear. These are real weapon systems operated by men who carry them on actual combat deployments. The technical accuracy extends to how they employ these tools. The way they reload, transition between weapons, use night vision and thermal optics. It's all legitimate because the men doing it on screen do it for real every other day. Where the film struggles is in the dramatic elements. The personal storylines feel forced because the SEALs playing these roles aren't comfortable with emotional scenes. There's a subplot about one operator expecting a child and struggling with the dangers of the job. And while the sentiment is real, the execution is awkward. But real SEALs have said that awkwardness is actually authentic in its own way. These guys aren't comfortable talking about feelings or personal struggles. They're trained to compartmentalize, to focus on the mission. And that emotional restraint you see on screen isn't bad acting as much as it is genuine military bearing. The film's plot involves disrupting a terrorist network planning attacks on American soil. And while the story is fictional, the tactics used by both the SEALs and the enemy fighters are based on real-world intelligence. The use of drug smuggling routes for terrorist infiltration, the coordination between different militant groups, the improvised explosive devices and ambush tactics. All of that reflects actual threats naval special warfare deals with. The filmmakers worked with intelligence personnel to make sure the threat scenarios were plausible. One sequence that earned particular praise from the SEAL community is the jungle firefight in Mexico. The team gets ambushed and has to fight through a coordinated enemy attack while protecting their wounded and moving to an extraction point. The chaos of that sequence, the way the SEALs immediately establish fire superiority and maneuver under contact. It's exactly how close quarters battle doctrine works. Real operators have used this scene in informal training discussions because it demonstrates proper tactical responses to an ambush. The film doesn't shy away from showing casualties. One of the SEAL characters dies making a heroic sacrifice. And the way the team responds, securing his body, continuing the mission, and dealing with the loss, that rings true. SEALs don't stop to grieve in the middle of an operation. They complete the objective, they get everyone home, including the fallen, and they process the loss later. The film shows that professional discipline without making it seem cold or heartless. What makes active valor controversial within the military community isn't the film itself, but the precedent it set. Using active duty SEALs as actors blurred lines between operational security and public relations. Some senior military leaders worried it was turning special operations into entertainment, but the SEAL community itself largely supported the film because it showed their world more accurately than anything Hollywood had produced. It wasn't propaganda. It was documentation. The technical accuracy comes at the cost of dramatic polish, and whether that trade-off was worth it depends on what you value in a war film. If you want great acting and emotional depth, you'll find active valor lacking. But if you want to see what actual SEAL operations look like, executed by real SEALs using real tactics and equipment, there's literally nothing more authentic. That's why it earns its place as the second most realistic SEAL movie according to the men who actually do this work. Number 1. Tears of the Sun.
Immediate air support! Location!
Ask any SEAL what the most realistic movie about their job is, and you'll get different answers depending on what aspect of the job they're talking about. But when it comes to showing the moral weight, the impossible decisions, and the true nature of unconventional warfare in a collapsed state, Tears of the Sun comes up more often than you'd expect. And that surprises people because this isn't the most famous SEAL movie. It didn't have the cultural impact of American Sniper, or the box office success of Lone Survivor. But it got something right that other films miss. Bruce Willis leads a team of SEALs on what should be a simple extraction mission in Nigeria during a brutal civil war. They're supposed to go in, grab an American doctor and a few refugees, and get out clean. But when they arrive and see the scale of the atrocities being committed, when they realize that leaving means condemning hundreds of innocent people to massacre, the mission changes. And that moral dilemma, that choice between following orders and doing what's right, that's the reality of modern special operations that most movies completely ignore. Real SEALs have talked about how accurate the portrayal of the team dynamics is in this film. The way Willis's character leads isn't through speeches or bravado. It's through quiet competence and the respect his men have for his judgment. When he makes the call to disobey orders and protect the refugees, his team doesn't question it. They just shift gears and adapt. That trust, that willingness to follow your leader into a situation that could end all their careers, that's what actual SEAL teams are built on. The tactical movement that through the Nigerian jungle is some of the most realistic small unit infantry work ever filmed. The team moves in proper formation, maintains noise discipline, uses hand signals for communication, and constantly scans their sectors. There's no dramatic music during these sequences, just the sounds of the jungle and the quiet professionalism of men who know their lives depend on doing everything correctly. Real SEALs point to these movement sequences as textbook examples of how special operations teams patrol through hostile territory. Director Antoine Fuqua worked extensively with former SEALs to get the details right. The technical advisor was Harry Humphreys, a former SEAL who made sure every weapon handling sequence, every tactical decision, every piece of gear matched what real teams would use. The result is a film where SEALs watching can't find obvious mistakes in how the team operates. The weapon transitions, the reload drills, the way they set security when they halt. It's all accurate because it was choreographed by people who actually did this work. What really sets Tears of the Sun apart is its unflinching look at the brutality of ethnic conflict and the limits of American military power. The film shows villages being massacred, refugees being hunted, and a SEAL team caught in the middle, trying to save who they can, while knowing they can't save everyone. Real operators who've deployed to Africa and other conflict zones have said this moral complexity is exactly what they faced. Orders from command don't always match reality on the ground, and sometimes doing the right thing means going against the mission brief. The firefights in the film are intense but grounded. There's no John Wick-style gun ballet. When the SEALs engage enemy forces, it's brutal and efficient. They use overwhelming firepower to break contact. They communicate constantly to avoid friendly fire, and they're always thinking about their next move. The ambush sequence where the team gets pinned down and has to fight through a numerically superior force shows exactly how special operations teams use superior trainings and coordination to overcome bad odds. One element that resonates strongly with real SEALs is how the film portrays the relationship between the team and the civilians they are protecting. There's no savior complex. The SEALs aren't portrayed as white knights rescuing helpless natives. They're professionals doing a job that's become far more complicated than anyone anticipated. The doctor played by Monica Bellucci challenges Willis's character, forces him to see the refugees as people rather than mission complications. And that tension between military objectives and human compassion is something real operators deal with constantly. The ending doesn't provide easy answers. The SEALs complete their evolved mission, but at a cost. Men die. The refugees they saved are just a fraction of those who needed help. And the team has to live with their choice to disobey orders, knowing it was right but also knowing it violated military discipline. Real SEALs appreciate this moral ambiguity because it reflects the complexity of modern warfare, where there often isn't a clear right answer. Tears of the Sun isn't flashy. It doesn't have the massive set pieces or the Hollywood polish of bigger war films, but it captures something essential about what it means to be a SEAL, operating in the gray areas of modern conflict. And that's why the men who actually do this work consider it the most realistic portrayal of their profession ever put on film. So, there you have it, 6 war movies that actual Navy SEALs respect for getting it right. These films didn't just chase action and explosions. They showed the reality, the weight, and the cost of being part of the most elite fighting force on the planet. That's what makes them worth watching.